Well, as you all know, there is a ton going on in the Arizona Wildcats universe. We have everything from to talk about today. And so Damon and I are going to break it all down on the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm joking. We have a top 5 list ranking all the top programs in the nation, and not in the nation, but on campus at Arizona. And then also playing some overrated, underrated at the end of the show with your boy, Damon Dog. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. In 30 seconds, don't you go anywhere.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am Damon and Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. We are in beautiful downtown Phoenix on a lovely overcast day at PHNX HQ3. And you kind of feel those overcast vibes, I feel like, here in the office, right? Was talking to, Arizona fans, his favorite guy, Anthony Totri, before we got on, and he just said, the sky is just, it's making the whole office vibe just mellow out a little bit. You feel that, Kevin?
I kind of looked at him with a crooked head when he said that, because I was like, what is he talking about? I feel like, rainy day
the
vibes.
Producer office is still popping, but
it's
everywhere
the
else.
Same old, you know what I mean? I feel like for me, I come into work every day, put my hat on, and make some graphics and do this show. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm kidding. But I think the vibes are just quieter around the office. Shane and Leah are on vacation in Europe, somewhere on the globe. If you spin it and point, they might be there. I don't know. But
Sun's presser later today.
Yeah, I feel like the office is just a little bit quiet right now, calm before the storm. And Totri's not going to be here for that. So
we have a ton of shows today, actually, on our YouTube.
Yeah, but Totri ain't here for Totri is Sun Devils locked in. And then other than that, don't ask Anthony Totri about nothing else. You know what I mean? NFL football, guy's a Chargers fan. What does he know? You know what I mean?
I don't even know where these strays are coming from. That wasn't at all where I was going with that.
Well, that's my guy, so I'm going to throw him strays. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? If I didn't like Totri, I wouldn't throw him strays. I would have moved on by now. You know what I mean? But it is the AZ Wildcats podcast, Damon. We are here. And the overcast vibes, I feel like, have not entered the production office, like you said. Not you and me. We are here. We are bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to go as the big polar bear lurks over there. Are you feeling the vibes of the rainy day?
I love rainy days, man.
I do too.
Given I'm from Arizona and we never get this, especially in this time of year, like early May, shower. Like, isn't that the best? But I'll take not 105 degrees any day of the week this time of year. So gotta love a little bit of an overcast day, and just the vibes, man. I put on some nice, just some slow tunes this morning. Shout out everybody here in the chat that is hanging out. We got Luke here. Last day of classes. Thank the Lord.
Bless up. I was talking to Damon.
Congrats,
actually
brother.
During the intro. I was like, Teacher Appreciation Week and last week of classes, I feel like that's the best thank you to teachers, is saying, like, no more students leave. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's the biggest thank you.
Here's where I'll push back. In college, you don't have teachers, you have professors. And
but they still
teachers are still teaching their students through the next couple weeks here in Arizona. At least.
Fair. But I guess it's your interpretation of the word teacher, right? Because I think a professor is a teacher. They just have a more distinguished title. You know what I mean? Coaches are teachers, and not by the same, discipline. But I think that they I don't know. Teachers come in all different shapes, forms, and sizes, Damon. So I do think the professors being gifted some time away from their students is a nice way of showing appreciation. Also, our guy Michael in the chat, he also says, congrats, Luke. But he says, I won't lie, guys. Tucson beat me up bad. 3 full days of baseball got me good. That's a lot of sun. Out in the sun, 3 straight days of baseball. That's a lot. But I feel like Tucson's a place where you shouldn't be leaving feeling all beat up. I feel like Tucson's a place that kind of
disagree. If you do Tucson right, you're getting beat up. You're going to the bars after. You're getting a little banged up. Hitting up some dirt bags, some other staples of your college days, like I'm sure Michael did. I think that that'll wear on a man,
See,
especially an adult.
I feel like the baseball.
You're still see that's the thing. You're still a little tiny little baby boy, Kevin. You know, you're 24 years old. You just turned 24. You say bright-eyed and bushy-tailed earlier in the show. That's
Correct.
exactly what you are. And so you can just rally. You can just go. But there are other people out here who are just like, I mean, like they're giving it their all on a weekend, and then they got to come back, go Monday through Friday, and treat it like nothing happened at the office. And it's just not an easy thing anymore.
I still think that it's the sun from the baseball that really gets you, because you know
It
better
is.
than anybody.
It
If
is.
you're doing everything that you said you're doing, not only are you going to, feel a little bit worse for wear when you leave, but if you're not out in the sun for 3 straight days, you're probably going to feel okay. You might feel a little tired, a little bit worn, but you're going to feel okay. Being out in the sun just exaggerates all those symptoms so crazily. So I feel like that is what it is. Michael is correcting us. He says, "Oh, baseball, I felt great. Dragoons catch up to you by the end of the night."
See what I'm saying? My boy was going to, he was hitting up the local breweries and trying, bringing back the delicacies that I'm sure he misses from wherever he's from. Michael, if you feel so obliged, feel free to let us know where you're from. We would I think that would be information we'd be willing to,
Great phrase.
We'd love to
obliged.
know, but yeah, just a fun weekend for Michael. Fun weekend for all Arizona baseball fans. As we talked about yesterday, Arizona takes down TCU in the series 2-1, and then as we'll talk about later in the show, game against GCU tonight. Another one of those one-off games against GCU, and hopefully take care of business there. I know they broke the losing streak. They snapped a losing streak to GCU on the last time they played them, but time to start a streak of our own, right? And starts with 2, Kevin. Starts with 2. So Arizona against GCU tonight at 7 p.m. at GCU up here in Phoenix.
Also in that race for the Big 12, like seeding and all that stuff, like you're in a 3-way tie there as well. So you just need every game you can get. You're at the point where
that doesn't factor into that.
No, you're right.
Games,
No, you're right. I guess I'm saying more so outside of Big 12 record. I'm more so saying this is the crunch time. Like
Momentum.
you're entering crunch time, end of year. You don't want to have stumbles. You don't want to have, we lost to GC. Oh, you know what I mean? Like you want to have momentum entering the end of Big 12 play, entering the tournament. But yeah, no, you are correct. It won't contribute to their Big 12 record. But I think this is still like when you look at the stretch of conference play and if you're evaluating the level of Arizona baseball, this game is in the middle of all that still. So yeah, good correction on me there. But I do still think you wanna grab this one.
Totally. But I want to say shout out David Jones here in the chat. Scroll up to the top here, Kevin. He lost me at first. And I was gonna put him on blast, be like, brother, powerhouse programs don't win 3 football games, a season ago. But then he comes back and he wins me back over. PHNX, one of the best sports media in the USA. God damn it, David! If you didn't just get the key to my heart, brother, drop a like on this video. We appreciate everybody for being here, even the ASU fans, the ASU trolls here in the chat. Appreciate everybody. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Road to 40K ended. It's now the road to 50K, Kevin. And you guys can help us. You can help us get there. So absolutely drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Keep up in the chat. Loving the chat today. And yeah, Kevin, we got some, we're going to talk about the Arizona athletic department as a whole. But first, we got some quick hitters that we're going to get to regarding, just some sports on campus.
Indeed. One of those quick hitters, not necessarily on the list of things we had in the rundown, because we have already talked about it on past shows. But Big T says here in the chat, might be late to the party, partay. But what do you guys think about the 2 power forwards that Tommy just signed? Let's talk about them. We've talked about them on multiple shows here, but we're going to talk about them a lot more before the preseason, I'm sure. You have CD Gay or Gouye, whatever fancy way you want to pronounce it. We have him coming in. And then Tommy went out and also picked up. Why am I blanking on the pronunciation of the name? I don't want to get it incorrect when I'm going for it. But you got Mobile Mawut. There you go. That's what it was. Mobile Mawut. You have those 2 power forwards coming in, both lengthy, both kind of to an extent project players with super high potential and also equally low floors. But I think that when you look at guys that could come in and have a higher chance of fulfilling their ceiling rather than falling to their floor, I think these are 2 guys that could do that. When you parlay that with the Carter Bryant conversation of will he, won't he, and every day that passes, it seems more like he won't return to Arizona, and I say that because he's being mocked higher and higher and higher in each mock draft that comes out. The Ringer mocked him at number 9 to the Rockets, and Damon and I discussed this yesterday. If he's being told he can go top 10, even, as far into the top 10 as, 9 or 8 or 7, ain't no way he'd be in his right mind to return to Arizona. He would not be an Arizona Wildcat next year if that's the case. I think the only way he returns to Arizona is if he's being told that he goes in the 15 to 20 or less range, and that way you can fight into the top 10. But I think you're returning to Arizona if you're Carter Bryant to make it into the top 10. So if you're being told you're a top 10 guy, he's gone. And I think when you look at the two power forwards that Tommy Lloyd has just brought in, they don't have the exact same athletic build as a Carter Bryant because they're slightly taller guys, lengthier guys, so they're not going to play the exact same. But who's going to fulfill those Carter Bryant minutes? It's going to be dispersed amongst guys, and these two are candidates for those minutes. And when you look at their skill sets, you kind of start getting really excited about what they could bring, not only to next year's Arizona team, but the year after, specifically with Mobile Wood.
Yeah, and I think, you have a guy in C.D. Gay that is, he played high level, European basketball, right? Like he has made a senior appearance for the Real Madrid senior team. And while he's mostly been, a guy who's played in the youth ranks at the U18 level and whatnot, he, the fact that he has reached that threshold and reached that heights at his age is pretty impressive, Kevin, despite, maybe my very elementary, evaluation of him as a prospect by watching some of his highlights. Like, obviously, like I'm going to have some takes on it, but my takes are not like set in stone. Like, oh, this guy is just like, I think he very much could be a big time contributor to this program. We will find out in the short term, but then you have Mobile Mawut, who is a guy that played at the NBA Academy where, they are continuously kind of pushing out some of these big time recruits. If you remember correctly, Ben Matherin was actually at the NBA Academy Latin America in Mexico, Mobile Mawut at the NBA Academy in Africa, which I would imagine is probably a little bit of a higher threshold of competition. I that's not coming from a place of knowledge, but I just feel like that there's more probably talent of a hotbed talent in Africa than there is in Latin America.
I also don't know what
players.
the interest in basketball in Latin America is off top of my head. I know that in certain pockets it's super hot, but I feel like it's also super cold in other pockets. Africa honestly might be very similar because of how big that continent is.
Yeah, it's a soccer country.
Yeah, so you probably do have like extreme hot pockets of basketball interest, and then extreme like what the hell is basketball interest? You know what I mean?
Here's the thing about basketball players though in Africa. Like if they're say they're like big time soccer fans, right? If there's a guy he's a soccer player, all of a sudden he's 6'9" because he hit a 10-inch growth spurt at 14 or whatever. Like, that's about all of a sudden he can't play soccer anymore, and the scouts are like basketball player. Whereas like in Latin America, in Mexico and stuff, they're not really playing hoops as much. Like they're but that being said, like there's still some really good Puerto Rican, Dominican players. I think in particular, and then Mexico has a that's not really Latin America. I think that's South America technically, right?
See, I don't know my distinctions. I don't know my distinctions.
I'm pretty good at geography, but this isn't a geography podcast.
This is not a geography podcast. We've dipped way too far into the geography 101 waters, and I am uncomfortable.
Is Argentina in Latin America?
I
know they speak
Latin
Spanish.
America?
Yeah, I guess so. Latin America is basically everywhere in the Americas that speaks Spanish, Portuguese, or French.
Wow, even French. Wow, nice. Oui.
The more you know.
The more you know. Dun, 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 dun. Does that get a glockenspiel? Is that glockenspiel worthy? The more you know?
Explain.
The more you know.
Glockenspiel.
Little glockenspiel, a little putting.
Oh, is that what
noise.
that is?
Yeah, Shane put it in here, and we've been using it on D-back sometimes. Little pull behind the curtain.
It's beautiful, Kevin.
Yeah. If you become a diehard and you let us know in the chat, like during the show, you get a glockenspiel just for you, and we celebrate with a glockenspiel.
That is very fair. That is I mean, if that doesn't make you want to become a diehard for the mere price of, what is it, about like $6 a month, then I don't even know what will. Kevin.
I mean, here's a teaser glockenspiel.
You don't want that?
You don't want to be. You don't want that just for you. Just for you. I don't know. You must be crazy. But yeah, no. That's kind of. I feel like the short and skinny on the two power forwards that they signed. I also want to mention like these are two players that, and I specifically with CD Gay as well, that they have NBA aspirations.
Mhm.
Like their goal is to be a professional basketball player.
Mhm.
These are not project guys that. Oh wow, Big T. We gotta talk about that in a second. And Damon, can you check that and make sure that is accurate? I'm not saying Big T's lying, but I want to make sure we're properly dating everything. But anyway, these are players with professional goals. These are players not like Tommy's going overseas and grabbing guys that he thinks could be pros. This is Tommy Lloyd evaluating, and Jack Murphy evaluating guys, saying that guy has a potentially a pro skill set matched with potentially a pro mentality, and then put them in Tommy Lloyd's system, which they're already mentally kind of familiar with because they've been watching it from overseas for so long.
Mhm.
They already know the Umar Balos. They already know, the Henry Vasars of last year, like the international players that Tommy Lloyd has leveled up and gotten to the highest levels of college basketball. I think that this is really encouraging, the two signings of the young power forwards, because it shows, again, I said this with Bryce James specifically, and I'm saying it with these two again, it indicates the health of the Arizona basketball program, that players from outside the country identify Arizona as a place to come if you want to develop and become the best basketball player possible within your potential.
Yeah, certainly. And Tommy Lloyd is the big man whisperer, and specifically the international big man whisperer. So, I think if you're a international big and you have aspirations of not only playing in the NBA, but playing potentially college basketball, who better to, kind of lead you to the promised land than Tommy Lloyd himself? I quick research, their mock draft they released on April 30th has him 9th to the Rockets, which I think we may have discussed, Kevin,
Correct.
already. So that I'm trying to find a more updated version of that. But yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like he's trending in the up direction.
Yeah. We should, how, again, we keep referencing D-backs here, but you know how D-backs has the Cattell climb where he goes up the mountain? We should get a Carter climb where he goes up the draft board. But that's
it just makes me sad.
Maybe for a little bit of a production meeting thing, and it would make me sad. But it would also be a celebratory thing, because Eric Duthie, our guy here in the chat, shout out to you, says, remember, if Carter goes to the NBA, it's still a positive for Tommy with recruiting. And honestly, hadn't thought about that. But
True.
It is a positive for the recruiting, because you can go and tell guys, hey, Carter Bryant, incredible talent, chose to come off the bench, and I still got him in the top 10 of the NBA draft. You don't have to be, heliocentric, everything revolving around you to go to the league here at Arizona. You can come here, literally be a bench guy with high potential, and I can get you into the top 10 of the NBA draft. So that actually is a really good point, I feel like. And another reason why we should do the Carter climb, because it's not depressing. It's actually encouraging. And it just shows how awesome Carter Bryant is and how awesome Tommy Lloyd is.
You're just such a positive guy, Kevin. I just can't match your energy. I love the glass half full look at it. And I agree with you, Eric. At the end of the day, like, yeah, you add that to the Tommy Lloyd resume of like, look at these guys that I'm getting into the NBA. But also at the same time, it significantly hampers, in my opinion, the ceiling of next year's roster, just given how high of a ceiling of a player that Carter Bryant is, given that kind of need him based off of the roster construction right now at that 3 spot, given that, this is a team that I think has championship aspirations and he'd be a key cog in that, process. So yeah, I'm just going to be sad about it, but I respect the ability to, find the positives in life, Kevin. It's a great quality, my guy.
I'll say I'll definitely be more sad than happy if Carter Bryant goes to the NBA draft, but it's not all sad is my point. And I think there are some positives that we have yet to unearth, like what Eric said in the chat, because I had not yet thought about that in that way. You know what I mean? So I think that was a good comment there. As Michael says, I'm selfish. We need him back bad. And I agree. Like I do think that like if Arizona is going to contend for specifically like a national championship next year,
yeah,
at least on paper preseason, there's no way they can do that without a guy
even
like
a Big
Carter
12
Bryant.
championship, given how nasty this conference is, man. Like
Good
you
point.
got to be elite of the elite, top 5 level team to win the Big 12. So especially with the class that Houston has coming in this season, Kansas isn't probably going to have another down year. Now that bum bozo Hunter Dickinson is gone, they can actually win basketball games, which is something to factor in. And then you have, Baylor. They always put talent on the table. Scott Drew's a national championship coach. Like, the competition is fierce in this conference. And in order to pull it off, you're going to have, a team that is elite basically at every level, right? And so, yeah, I think it's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, it's also not set and finished. But it does seem like, as we talked about, just a steady climb for Carter Bryant from, a second-round prospect to somehow the 6th overall pick, according to Big T here in the chat.
Food for thought, Damon. And we can talk about this now a little bit. If Carter Bryant had started the entire season his freshman year at Arizona, how high could he have been drafted? If he's being rumored to go top 10, Big T is finding somewhere at 6, potentially online, as a bench guy who averaged 6.5 points and 4.5 boards and just 1 assist. And I know he did a lot more than that with the eye test. You and I both know that. Everyone in the chat knows that. But if I'm just breaking down brass tacks, what did he do last season? That's what he did. How high could he have gone as a starter, in your opinion? Or do you think it could have hindered his draft stock if he was a starter?
Yeah. I do wonder. I think that's an interesting conversation because part of the intrigue about Carter Bryant is the unknown.
The what if.
Yeah. You see the flashes and you didn't really see those negative moments because Tommy Lloyd didn't allow them to continue or free fall, right? Like, if Carter looked bad on a defensive possession off ball, he was out the next possession. So I think that it kind of goes both ways, right? Like, there's a world in which Carter Bryant flashes even more and he is this top 10 kind of solidified prospect, right? But there's also a world where I think, he shows that he doesn't really have the handle, to be a star in the NBA. He doesn't have the scoring chops to reach that next level, right? And does that deter a team from taking him in that top 10 because you're shooting high. When you're in the top 10, you want an all-star, right? You're not going for a guy that is, going to just merely help your roster. You're not there's a reason that guys like, and we talked about it yesterday as well. Like, there's a reason guys like, Jalen Brunson aren't top 10 picks. And it's because there's perceived lower ceilings on prospects like that, right? So if he played more and then it looked like maybe he didn't have as high of a ceiling from a scoring, put the ball on the floor perspective, does that deter teams from drafting him that high? I don't know. I mean, I genuinely think it could either way there.
It really could. And I think if we're going to go with the, I guess the benevolent, positive, glass half full direction of things, what if you run the simulation of him starting, what's the positive possible outcome? We can go through the negative one here in a second.
Yeah.
Kind of like you alluded to. But I think I'm looking through, for example, Bleacher Report /NBA.com's most recent mock draft from literally this morning. And I'm looking through and I'm thinking if Carter Bryant had played well, could he have been, and I know he doesn't have the same level of athleticism that this player has, so maybe not a top 3 guy, but could Carter Bryant have been like a VJ Edgecombe type of prospect if he started all season last year? VJ Edgecombe, a guy who, again, the raw athleticism of VJ Edgecombe is going to take him over the top on a lot of these prospects, probably including Carter Bryant, even in this hypothetical universe that he started and did really well. But VJ Edgecombe's a guy who, even without the athleticism, he started last year very rough, very raw. But by the end of the year, he had developed into this guy who could go to the Philadelphia 76ers at number 3 in the NBA draft. I feel like, and maybe I'm crazy, if you run that simulation where Carter Bryant starts last season and it goes well, is there a world where he goes in that top 5 at number 5 to the Wizards? Because Jeremiah Fears is at that 5 spot in this mock draft. You know what I mean? Trey Johnson of Texas is in the 6th spot.
I don't think there's a world where he goes higher than, to be honest with you, than where he's being mocked right now in terms of top 10. I think that's pretty much the ceiling there because, I mean, as much as you're naming players there that are, good players, but maybe not jumping off the screen at you, a guy like Con Knipple at 8, right ahead of Carter Bryant in that most recent. Con Knipple is worlds better than Carter Bryant was last season as a college basketball player. I'm not talking about their projectables. I'm talking about how good they were last season for their respective teams. And so I think in that same regard, you'd kind of do that up and down the entire mock draft, right? Of like, well, this guy was clearly better than him, blah, blah, blah.
No, yeah, very valid. And I think on the other side of that same coin, if things had gone like, things could have gone wrong if Tommy had pushed that button too early of putting, Carter Bryant in the starting lineup. Like you alluded to, his handling was not there at times this season. Some of the early decision making on defense was kind of a liability as well. So
let me throw a prospect at you, and like we can debate this. I don't know where your take's going to be on this, but this is just I would need to like maybe watch even more of him to really dive into this. But I kind of don't really understand it. Like why would Carter Bryant be drafted ahead of Igor Demon from BYU? That's a 6'9", 19-year-old, as same age as Carter, who handles the rock, who basically plays point guard, like, and played a lot more and was a bigger piece to their team than Carter was to this Arizona team, right? And so I'm thinking about, like, you have kind of like a unicorn in terms of height and ability to put the ball on the floor and create his own shot and whatnot. He looked really good against Arizona when he played us, especially that first game. And I don't know. I like that to me, like that's a prospect where I'm like, I don't really understand why Carter would go ahead of a guy like that. But
I think I would, and again, I would want to like watch. I would really want to get into the weeds with like Yegor Demon's tape and just really get into it and have a cemented take on it. But like just off of what I remember seeing from this past season and from both of those players, I feel as though it's an athleticism thing. Like and I'm not saying that because he's a white guy. Like I'm saying that because I think Carter Bryant, when you look at his ceiling, you look at the athlete he is right now, what he can do on defense, the block shots, the alley-oop dunks on the other end, and then you combine it with how raw his skill set is, but the flashes he's shown on both ends, and you figure, well, we can teach the fundamental stuff.
Yeah.
But we can't teach him to be that freak athlete. You know what I mean? And so I feel like it's an athleticism thing. Also, I think Yegor Demon showed some poor decision making. I know he had some great passing ability that he showcased last season, but I think there were times where it was being misutilized because of defensive pressure. He was making incorrect decisions, turning the ball over a little bit too much at times. Overall, he had a great year, but I think I would take Carter Bryant because they're both somewhat projects, but Carter Bryant is more of an NBA level project, in my opinion, than Yegor Demon, who might not just have the chops to run with the dudes in the NBA. And I might be totally wrong when things play out. And he is like the greatest point guard that ever lived.
I mean, it's just to me that those are both like high potential guys that, you're projecting what their futures and what their careers will end up being,
Correct.
Right? Like you don't necessarily expect those guys to step in and be, the stars of your team right away. But that being said, I think that one of them played a lot more. And I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. So I don't know. I don't. Carter's around a bunch of guys that he played a lot more minutes than him. I do think that somewhat of the mystery of Carter Bryant is helping his draft status.
I agree.
But I also, it could be completely warranted. And I'm not saying that in a negative way to Carter at all. Like, I think that there's a world where he's an absolutely elite NBA player, but it is just an interesting kind of, dichotomy there between Carter Bryant. Like he's a weird prospect in that regard. You don't typically see the blue chipper high school guys leave after 1 year after coming, I feel like being like seventh mans on their team and then not being like, you see that sometimes, but they're usually like second round picks after that. Like think about a guy like, who was the dude from who went to Eastern Michigan, who transferred to Eastern Michigan. Who was a big
Amani Bates.
Like that's a guy who like he struggled in his college career, went to a smaller school, came out kind of earlier than he should have, right? And then like he was like his draft status showed that. I feel like typically when you're a guy that doesn't, not that Carter struggled, but when you're a blue chipper that isn't like dominating, like isn't one of the 2 or 3 best players on your team, you fall a little bit in your draft stock. And for some, like he's just like one of those weird guys where he just keeps rising because of it to an extent.
I have another hypothetical Carter Bryant situation to throw at you. If Arizona defeats Duke in March Madness,
yes,
and I know we're dipping. I know some people don't not like hypotheticals, living in a hypothetical world. But if Arizona did defeat Duke and Carter Bryant was able to play one or maybe two or whatever, however many games would have remained, 3 maximum, or was it 2 maximum? I don't know. I'm bad at math.
3 maximum.
But either way, if Carter Bryant was able to finish the run after
4,
whatever would have happened after they defeated Duke, do you think it would have affected his draft stock positively? Do you think he could have climbed any higher?
Yes. I think I think that tournament performances is significantly raises people's draft stock. Like Walter Clayton was not a first round prospect before the NCAA tournament. He has a bunch of big games. He didn't even play very well in the national championship. Hit some big shots down the stretch though, and now he's being mocked at the end of the first round because people think that he's at least a very high floor prospect. So I think that's totally a scenario, where there's a world where Carter Bryant, like shows out later in the tournament and that potentially raises his stock a little bit more. But not sure if playing like more regular season minutes would have helped him all that much, to be honest with you.
No, I agree. I think the one argument that really could be made for the regular season minutes really helping him become the top 5 to 10 guy that we're talking about him potentially being would be the reps, because I think like you saw Carter Bryant get a lot better with the reps that he was given, and I think honestly I feel as though if Carter Bryant was given a starting role and we're taking team performance somewhat out of the equation, we're talking just about Carter Bryant's role and what would have been best for him and fast tracking his development. So forget like the win-loss of like, well, if you put Carter Bryant in this lineup, maybe they don't do as well in this game. Not talking about that. I think if you put Carter Bryant in the starting lineup, I do feel like by the end of the year, I think he's a lot better than he was at the end of the year this past season coming off the bench, because he did so well with the minutes he was given, and he clearly learned from each different game that he played in. So I feel like you would have gotten literally an incredible freshman, one of maybe not like a top 5, but like one of the best freshmen in the nation if he had started last year. I really do believe that. And when I threw out that top 5 number earlier, like I kind of feel like, I'm not saying he would have been in the top 5, but I feel like that 5 or 6 number, like it really could have been Carter Bryant, I think, if he had started every game last season. And maybe I'm insane. Maybe he would have looked like Bambi and he wouldn't have looked very good, and it would have been bad for him, and he would have ended up in that 20 to 30 range. But I feel like the type of player he showcased himself to be would have warranted such.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you, but
also I am seeing the Ringer now has him at 6. They updated their website.
Okay,
they have him they do have him at 6 here.
Gotcha. Very, very interesting. Yeah, I mean, just loosely looking at the top recruits in the country from that past season. I mean, I think you got to put at least Cooper Flagg and Knippel over him, right? From their freshman season, as well as VJ Edgecombe, I would say, despite him playing on a worse team. I think you're crazy. If I offered you a 1-for-1 VJ Edgecombe for Carter Bryant trade last year, like, would you not take it?
I would have thought about it for 30 seconds and then said yes.
Yeah. And then, you have the Rutgers guys who are obviously both very good individual players, but how much do they contribute to actually winning basketball games? You, of course, have Malawak, who was great for Duke as well.
See, honestly, I think if we're doing that, I think the player that I would take from Duke over Carter Bryant isn't Knippel, it's Kaman Malawak. Like, if I'm an NBA team, I'm not going to lie to you, I think Knippel's shooting is unbelievable, but I do kind of somewhat worry about like his defensive versatility in a way. I'm not saying he's like
big though. That's the one thing I'll push back on. Like, he's like 6'7".
He is big, but he's not. I don't think he's the side to side athlete that Carter Bryant is, and he does play. He does play good defense for what he's working with athletically. But I think I would, if I'm drafting, I think I would take Carter Bryant over Knippel, but it'd be close. I do think I would take Kaman Malawak over Carter Bryant because he is he's that project guy. But he's 7 feet tall and can protect the rim legitimately, can get up, can get back, can go side to side. And I just feel like Kaman Malawak is the guy from Duke that I would take over Carter Bryant before Knippel. Obviously Cooper Flagg, but leaving Cooper Flagg out of that conversation is crazy.
It's what's funny looking at this. Shout out Henry Vasar. There's a bunch of North Carolina guys who were on this list, and just like they're like second round prospects, because that's what happens when you go play for for Hubie is your draft stock just gets absolutely put in the gutter. So shout out Henry. And also it's funny looking at 2 5-stars that went to ASU.
Yeah, no, that is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you.
2 guys ranked ahead of Carter Bryant, by the way, including Shannon, ranked ahead of Carter Bryant.
Really?
Yes.
Where again?
On 24/7.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
Garbage.
That is gross. Well, Damon, we still have to rank top 5 programs in the nation, and we spent a lot of time talking about Carter Bryant and the Wings of Arizona basketball. We're 35 minutes into this show, so we might actually have to keep the top 5 somewhat brief because I'm excited for the overrated, underrated later as well because we're talking literally everything from Carter Bryant and shrimp cocktails to tough out-of-conference schedules. So make sure to stay tuned right here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Damon, I had a great time this past weekend, and it was for a wide variety of reasons. But one of the biggest reasons was because of our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. That Wild Horse Pass location is pure class. It is elite. Endless slots, tons of table games, high limit games, low limit games. You got all types of different bar scene vibes in the actual casino. You can catch maybe even a PHNX live show at the Upper Deck Bar and Grill, and then you also have the sports book as well. So catch every thrilling or painful moment if you're a Blues and Celtic fan at the BetMGM Sportsbook at Gila River and Resorts and Casinos with massive screens, delicious food and drink, and all the action. And I dare say the best espresso martini in the Valley. NBA playoffs, UFC 315. I will likely, potentially, depending upon what the girlfriend is thinking this weekend looks like, gonna be at Gila River Sportsbook watching the UFC 315 pay-per-view, PGA Championships, French Open, Indy 500, and more. It's the ultimate place to watch and win. Place your bets and experience the excitement. Head to Gila now. I would say to book your stay right now. Very affordable, very fun. Gila River Resorts and Casinos.
Talk about affordable, Kevin. How about the most affordable flooring that you will find anywhere with our friends at Empire today? Empire, not only is it affordable, but it's also going to be high quality. And that's why they can't be beat, because you're getting the best quality flooring for the best price possible. And they're also going to come show up, help you install it, bring it to your house. They're not going to make you go through the process of finding a guy who's going to put the flooring down after you lug it home.
That's
from
the
that
best
big
part.
Yeah, it's
because you know me, I don't do nothing. So
totally.
So that's the best part. Shout out to Empire today for that. Continue. Sorry.
Totally. And there's something to be said for a home court advantage, Kevin. Like, that's at the end of the day, everybody feels comfortable being on their own home floor. And, don't let that home floor be something that, is like maybe you bring guests over, you're embarrassed. Oh, this is my crappy carpet that I have.
It's old. It's from when I bought the house.
Yeah. It's like you want that home floor to be something that you have pride in. And that's where Empire today also comes in. Like they're going to make sure that you love what you have. They're going to bring their virtual floor designer. They're going to show you what it looks like in your home before you install it, so you don't make some massive purchase and then later decide, I actually don't really like that color with my walls. And so it's the best process from start to finish with our friends at Empire today. And also, you're going to get a promo code PHNX, and that's going to get you $350 off. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details.
You want to be like Damon using Empire today for flooring, and because that home court advantage is important, you can walk in your house and just emulate that one moment where Dwayne Wade hopped up on the table and was like, "This is my city," or whatever the hell
I do that
said.
once a day,
but it could be on Empire Today flooring using code PHNX.
I watch that video every day.
Just wanted to throw that out there. But Damon, we are going to rank the top 5 athletic programs on campus at the University of Arizona using, bam, this beautiful graphic right here, brought to us by Damon Dog.
And let's get the chat involved in this. Like, chat, get active. We want to hear what you have to say regarding, who you think are the top 5 sports on campus currently at the University of Arizona. Like, what's your what's your guys' vibe? And I'll let the people know at home, Kevin. I'm kind of going into this blind. I don't even have a set really idea of where I want to go. I figured, let's talk through this as a family. and come to a conclusion that we're all happy with.
I love that. I love that idea because yeah, you and I were talking about it and we were like, why do a ton of in-depth research for this top 5 when it's supposed to be a feel thing? You know what I mean? We could do this off of we could easily do this off of like stats and who's won the most games in conference and over X amount of years or whatever. But it's kind of going to be a vibes list. Erica Day in the chat says if softball isn't top 2, I'm going to lose it.
Michael, it's so putting a little bit of like somewhat of a rules, not rules per se, but just like kind of where the overview of where we're coming from. It's not just based off of this season, although like I think that there's not a formula to this. This is a balance of a million different things, but obviously the current status of the team is going to weigh very heavily in terms of our thought process. But I also think the future of the team, the future of the program, like how we see that going, where like what the vibes are around the program, that kind of, we're going to put all of that together, right? Like it's a whole all encompassing viewpoint of each program in particular, not just, oh, how did they perform based off of last season?
And if we're being honest, the reason that Damon and I partially work so well is because with this kind of a list, I'm going almost fully off of vibes. How are the vibes surrounding the team right now? And Damon, I feel like, is going mostly off of a mix of, have you had success recently? And are the vibes good? Meanwhile, I'm just going all vibes. So that's why we need Damon to have the facts. He needs to have the actual, because I'll go out there and, hell, because it's the men's basketball offseason, and this is practically a power ranking. So, you could argue, this is a joke, you could argue based off vibes that Becky Burke in women's basketball top 3. You know what I'm saying? The vibes are so fire right now.
Yeah.
We got A1s coming to the women's basketball team. Look at that. Becky Burke's tweeting about, rumor has it that, it's going to be rocking some new A1s next season. Look that's a beautiful shoe. In the Arizona colors, it's going to be even more beautiful, Damon. So
that is cool.
I want to stress that Damon is here to keep me in check because the vibes don't always lead to correct lists. So that's why we're going to collab on this. As a family, like Damon said, you in the chat, get involved. But Damon, should we go ahead and get our first one underway?
Yeah. Why don't you lead us off here, Kevin? I honestly like. Okay.
All right.
I think this put it back on me for a second. This could upset some people. There's clearly a athletic program that is number one most important on campus. There's clearly a program that is the one that this fan base cares about the most. There's clearly one that, like if we could choose a championship, we all know which one we choose. I don't know that I would necessarily go number one men's basketball.
Wow.
But I think that will be the consensus, and I'm not so dug in on that I'm willing to concede and put men's basketball first. And also, I feel like Tommy's kind of, the way he's looking at me in that graphic, like he's like,
giving you a stank face.
He's like, for real? Like, I mean, we all know who's going number one here. So I think without further ado, I think we put men's basketball at number one, Kevin.
Real quick, I want to address the comments here. Michael says, number 1, men's tennis. Number 2, softball. Number 3, baseball. Number 4, women's golf. Number 5, men's basketball. Not a bad list, honestly. Number 5, men's basketball, though. I feel like, man, it's a tough list. You got a lot of success going on around campus these days.
Yeah.
But I do feel like men's basketball being one of the major 4 sports and being discussed in potential preseason national title contention has to bump it above 5.
Yeah.
But I really can't disparage that list. Erica Day says, I don't know, bro. A gymnastic natty would go insane. It would, but you use the word would in a future sense, in a future tense. And this is not the world of the mock, Erica. So, like Damon said, let's get right into it here with our top 5. And so are we for certain putting men's basketball at the number 1 spot right now, Damon?
Is that what
we're doing?
I think so. I think that's what you wanted to do. And I'm willing to go there with you, Kevin.
All right, Damon.
Despite it maybe not being, my what I would maybe put number 1 necessarily, but I think it's certainly in like the top 3 range.
All right, men's basketball, number 1. Bang.
Men's basketball on the board at number 1. Now, Kevin, I think this is where we can get interesting a little bit now, right? Is what's number 2? And I'm gonna throw one out there for you.
What are you going to throw at me, Damon?
I think women's golf is number 2.
I don't hate that at all, honestly.
You look at the women's golf team. Let me make my case real quick.
Okay.
They won a national championship in 2018.
Alrighty.
So, not a pretty short time ago. NCAA championship appearances in 23, 21, 19, 18, 16, 15. Won the conference championship this year in the Big 12. I think that this is just a program that year in, year out is, they're competing for the pinnacle of their sport. They're a program that is, no matter what, I feel confident that the women's golf team is going to, be kind for, whatever they're competing for. And I think that there are some other programs that are, we're kind of splitting hairs here with a few other teams. But I think that's just kind of, that's my pick for what is number 2.
All right, I can get with that, Damon. Honestly, I feel like the vibes around, if we're going to the vibes around women's golf are really good. Can I counter with softball?
Yes.
I would like to counter with softball when you combine historical importance with modern performance. I think you still get the number 2 ranking for softball because when you look at what Devin Netz is doing this year, making history on the diamond out there and the softball diamond, being the first ever player to hit a home run and pitch a complete game in the same game in Arizona Wildcats history, getting drafted to the Bandits, one of just 12 players to get a golden ticket. And then you have, Sydney Stewart winning Conference Players of the Weeks. And you have a first year in a new conference where you're contending. And I know that women's golf did, banger job this year contending in that conference is an understatement. You know what I mean? But I think when you combine, like we said with men's basketball, if we're going to use the argument of, one of the most important sports on campus, I think you have to give the nod to softball because the performance has been there, the historical relevance is there, the fan support is there, and I think the vibes are good enough. I think I think there's an argument for softball to enter that next spot. What do you think about that argument?
Women's golf is 18th in the country right now. Softball is 13th in the country right now, give or take a few, depending on which polls you look at in particular. So, they're very, very close to one another in terms of where they are considered to the caliber that they are considered. Arizona 13th in another ranking that I just looked up real quick. So, yeah, I think you're looking at. I agree. I think we're splitting hairs a little bit here. I guess where I was coming from, I believe, and I could be wrong in this, but I'm gonna just do a quick little search. I think the women's tennis team has been slightly better than the softball team has been recently.
The golf team?
Yeah. So like I look at, I talk about NCAA championship appearances since, 2010 on, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 appearances.
Sheesh.
And softball since 2010 in the Women's College World Series has 4 appearances. So, I think softball is, I think they're currently on a very similar trajectory. I think that they're both like softball's finishing second. Women's golf finished first in the Big 12 based off of a miraculous win, right? So they almost finished second. So it's not like that's night and day difference. But I just think that women's golf has been a little bit more of a title contender recently than softball has been. I know softball, like if this was an all-time ranking, softball's number 1. Like it's not even a discussion for me. Softball is clearly number 1 in an all-time ranking. Baseball is probably number 2. Basketball is probably number 3. Maybe women's golf is number 3 and basketball is number 4. But like I think if we're doing this based off of current vibes, I just feel like the women's golf team is like, I think that they have a better chance of winning a natty than the softball team does right now. I don't know if that's,
you make a compelling case.
Do people disagree with that? Sound off in the chat. Who do you think has a better? Yes, we do. We certainly need a gavel. Who do you think has a better chance of winning a national championship? Women's golf or softball? Let us know, peeps.
But yeah, no, I was saying we need a gavel so that we can finalize these choices and go bang, 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 bang. You know what I mean? Because I think you make a compelling argument, and I think it's good enough for us to put women's golf in the number 2 spot.
So then do you
on our
want to put
rankings.
softball number 3? Is that where you're at with it?
I think we do go ahead and put softball at the 3 spot there,
Okay.
just because, like we were talking about, if we're splitting hairs that closely with oh my god,
GM Espo with the
GM
play of
Spo.
the play of the century here. Kevin, show the people. Wow.
Let's go.
The judge has spoken.
With great power comes great responsibility, and
This
I will
is
not
true.
I will not screw this one up. Yeah, but Damon, we were kind of talking about how we were splitting hairs about the softball and women's golf conversation, and so I do think that if we are talking if we're talking who's going to be in that 3 spot,
Mhm.
we'd be fraudulent. We would be fraudulent to not put softball in that 3 spot. Is there any argument otherwise?
No, I mean the softball program. I know this isn't exactly an all-time thing completely, but they're 8-time national champ, or 8-time national champions. 5-time runners-up. Like, this is just a program that is the elite of the elite. There's a reason that our softball program is one of the 3 greatest softball programs, 2 greatest softball programs of all time, and they continue to be good and contenders year in and year out, despite not winning a national championship since the 2007 season, which, that's quite a bit ago now at this point, unfortunately. So I think we need to flip the script there a little bit, but softball program's still running strong. 3 super regional appearances, I believe, since Caitlin. All right, okay, 2 super regional appearances in the Caitlin Lowe era, 1 Women's College World Series appearance, maybe another one this year. Michael puts here in the chat. Can you scroll down? He says, "I agree. Softball has been dominated by Oklahoma. Golf seems fairly open year to year." I guess that's kind of where I was at with it. Is that the upper echelon softball teams still seem like a step above where Arizona is, whereas the women's golf team to me is a team that if things break right on a given tournament, they could win the entire thing. Even despite them being like 18th, you know what I mean? So I guess that was kind of my thought process with it, but I certainly could see the argument for even probably the team that I'm going to put number 4, Kevin, being a little bit higher as well. Michael also asks, was the women's basketball natty appearance the most recent out of any sport? I think triathlon won, right?
Yeah,
so
triathlon.
They won this past season. Past that, I think so.
Yeah, and especially of any of like the major 4 or 5. You know what I mean? Like women's or men's side, like definitely.
So I was going a different direction with this, and now I'm a little bit kind of. I think there's 3 sports here for these final 2 spots, Kevin. And now I really could be talked into any of these. I was going to say my first thought process was men's tennis deserves number 4. Because they just reached their 3rd straight Sweet 16.
Yep.
They're a really high level program, and they are rising year after year.
Jay Friend looks awesome.
Yeah, they're incredible. So I was leaning that. Baseball also a very, very good program, all-time program in terms of college baseball history, probably on the borderline of that top 10 range. Chip Hale has been very successful in regular seasons, although the postseason success has been a miss.
It's been waiting until 2025.
Yes, hopefully. But also, triathlon did win a national championship.
Wheelchair basketball also did. Luke reminded us in the chat. I literally read an article about that.
Not a sanctioned NCAA sport.
No,
so
you're right.
I think we're going to put that one off to the side here when involving in this discussion, but very much shout out the wheelchair basketball team. Do you have to say triathlon because they won a natty?
I don't think you have to say anything.
Where are you? What do you think?
I honestly, I kind of like men's tennis in that 4 spot. 3 straight Sweet 16s. You got a single star at Jay Friend. You're doing everything you need to do. Who knows where they end up this season? Mm-hmm. This year could be the year. Who knows for men's tennis? So I think the 4 spot, if we're doing like a vibes, not really quite a power rankings, but also kind of a power rankings, I feel like men's tennis deserves the 4 spot. Is there an argument you want to give otherwise?
Yeah, I'll say one thing. Shout out the Arizona women's triathlon team. I actually wasn't really aware of this, to be honest with you, Kevin. They beat ASU in the national championship to hoist it.
Yeah.
ASU had a 7-year dynasty going in terms of their triathlon W's. And the triathlon team kind of, got in the way of that, which shout out. So
I only knew that because I had a conversation with Shane Diefenbach about
What?
we took the triathlon natty, and he was like, well, yeah, go get 6 more and we can talk.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay.
It was kind of one of those kind of conversations. So yeah, I learned that the harsh way.
That's and funny enough, that's the same mentality I have regarding Arizona football versus Arizona State football. Is hey, you guys are so good as an all-time program. Oh, okay, cool. Well, how come Arizona has the series by let's see here what it is now, 6 games. I thought you guys were on an entirely different level. Oh, prove it to me then, because I as far as I'm concerned, Arizona has the all-time record head to head, right?
Yeah.
If that's what we're doing. So I mean, that's that. I can play that game too, Kevin. But also talk about how about ASU? Like, I really want to reach their national championship threshold. Like I want to get to where they are so that we aren't below them in natties, and the triathlon is just not doing us any favors.
Yeah, no, the triathlon is not really helping us out there. Really stuffing the stat sheet over there for
Yeah.
ASU. But so are we agreeing tennis in the 4th spot?
I think so.
All right, let's put it in there. Tennis in the 4 spot, men's tennis under softball, women's golf, and men's basketball in the 1 spot. This is a tough 5 spot, Damon. Who do we got as options for our 5 spot? Tell the people at home.
I think baseball and triathlon are the 2 options.
Chad, do we have any other wild cards you want to throw out there? I know AZ Cats G was asking if Arizona has a sanctioned Frisbee golf team. I don't think so. And if they do have a team, it's probably club. And I don't think they're going to make the top 5 of this list. If we expanded it to a top 7, who knows? Possibly. But anyway, if you're talking about baseball or triathlon, man.
It's weird though when you look on like the Wikipedia page, and I know Wikipedia, whatever, people are getting mad at me, but like they don't put triathlon as a team national championship.
That is strange.
They don't do it they actually don't do it for ASU. They don't do it for Arizona either.
That is strange.
It is weird.
I do think, Damon, if I can be bluntly honest, I think we have to put baseball in the 5 spot. I think that similar to how like what we were talking about earlier with softball, like historical relevance, but in a different way.
Mhm.
Like first ever French, collegiate D1 baseball player ever. You have Mason White, 1 home run away from being in the top 3 all time in Arizona home runs. Like this you have Pluta going for the save record. Like the Orloff going for the appearance record. You have so many like all-time historical Arizona Wildcats on this team that will be remembered for years to come. And I think the potential of getting the monkey off of Chip Hale's back in the postseason, I think is reason enough to put them in the 5 spot. The vibes are good. Brendan Summerhill, if he can stay healthy at some point, at any point this season, can really change the level of this year's baseball team. And it's tough because I feel disrespectful to the triathlon team because what do they have to do to make it into the top 5?
I do, man.
What do they got to do to make like they went out and won the whole damn thing?
Yeah.
They can't compete no more because they won the whole damn thing. You know what I mean? And here we are saying that a team that isn't even leading the conference is in the 5 spot. But I think that's what we're saying. and hey, for triathlon, and this is not from Damon, this is from me, this is a great step. The biggest step you could have taken into cracking next year's top 5. You know what I mean? Come out, get that back to back. Get 1 more off of ASU. And yeah, maybe we, if we had expanded this further, we could have done like a top 5 and then maybe like a comeback player of the year or comeback program of the year or like a newcomer program of the year. Triathlon could have been that newcomer of the year.
So triathlon has only played 2 seasons.
Exactly.
And they won a national championship in their 2nd season.
Yeah, but I'm saying like that
it's
newcomer
so
of the year
hard
award
to
is
leave them
locked
off
up.
this list. Here's what we're gonna do, Kevin. We're gonna I think you're leaning baseball.
Okay.
So I think we'll go baseball here. And then when people yell at us when we put this on Twitter, I'm gonna go CC semicolon at Kevin Thomas for every single person that says
instead of
for all the people that are angry at us for not putting the triathlon team. I'm just gonna direct it at my boy Kevin and say, go crazy. Go crazy.
Well, no, if you Here, look. You think it's is your pick triathlon?
It's so hard to
if
leave
your
off
pick
a natty team, man.
also, and if you want to figure out for certain who is the 5th pick and you're watching with our streaming platform services, please go over to gophnx.com. The party continues over there. But if your pick is triathlon and my pick is baseball for the final slot, I think we need a tiebreaker of the chat to tell us, is it baseball or is it triathlon?
So I'll start a poll in the chat, Kevin, and we will let the people decide this last one in regards to, you know, who is going to be the 5th program on this list in top 5 Arizona programs. So let me just start this poll, and then everybody can get in on it. But
indeed. And also, I wanted to say, you know, what we could do our overrated, underrated while we're waiting for the poll results.
Very, very true, sir.
And then when we finish our overrated, underrated, we can just come back to the poll and see what people in the chat think. But yeah, that is kind of in our top 5. That was an interesting one to go through. There are so many good things going on in the universe of Arizona athletics, Damon. And while we get that poll going to finalize our top 5,
Eric is so right. I mean, there's not a world where Kevin could handle. I could just feel the tension in the room growing when I said what I was gonna do, and Kevin's just like, no, but then people will be angry with me.
I don't care if people are angry.
I want people to like me and tell me all my opinions are great.
Well, no, I don't care about that necessarily. It's more so like I don't need people being like, did you not know that this exact, like, I don't need like people going into the weeds about like triathlon stuff with me.
Oh, well, I'm going to tell you what, man, we're going to post that graphic, Kevin, and it's not going to provide the context and the nuance of this entire hour-long show that we just did.
I know.
It's going to
that's why you can't be just CCing me on that kind of stuff, because then I got to go back and clip the part where we talked about it and send it to them.
Yep.
For them to not even watch and still reply.
My dad in the chat here says triathlon still not a full-fledged NCAA sanctioned sport. It is currently an emerging sport for women on its way to becoming fully sanctioned. It is, yeah. That's kind of, I think that's why they don't have them on the Wikipedia Team National Championships. It's also like it is sponsored by the NCAA though. That's what I find confusing. Like they won the NCAA Division I Women's Collegiate Triathlon National Championship. Like it's not as if it's some club sport. It's not like the Ice Cats just won the club hockey national championships.
I can't. Ice Cats?
What?
It sounds like a musical. Like Cats on Ice, the musical.
Ice Cats is fire, dude.
I can't take it too serious. I take hockey very seriously, as you know.
I do know that, and I think this is one of your worst takes I've ever heard.
So but Ice Cats makes me think of like Cats, the musical, on ice, like coming to a city near you. You know what I mean?
When did Cats the musical come out?
I don't know. I had never seen Cats the musical. I don't. Is that like the proper name? Cats the musical.
1981.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, very famous, based on the 1939 poetry collection Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats by T.S. Eliot. We've gone off the rails. Is it safe to say that baseball is in the 5 spot because triathlon is technically
Arizona
not?
Men's Hockey, 1979. The Cats the Musical, 1981. That's a W. The boys did it again.
I wasn't saying one predated the other. How is this an Max? You are sick in the head.
Max, Cats is not on Broadway right now, brother.
And I don't think that we exactly have the demographic that would go buy tickets to go see Cats on Ice, the musical, on Broadway. Max, sick in the head. Sick in the head.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we're looking at the chat here, Kevin. It's overwhelmingly in favor of baseball.
Bang. All right. Bang. Put it on the board. Yeah. Men's basketball, women's golf, softball, men's tennis, and baseball.
The definitive top 5 sports on the campus of the University of Arizona. Brought to you by your boys and the chat. What a team effort.
That was a team effort. Hey, everybody, high five. Bang. Love to see that.
That was great.
That was really good. And then to round out today's show, we'll hit this real quick because we are in overtime a little bit here. So I wanted to go through some overrated, underrated with our guy Damon Dog because I had some topics on my mind, And Damon and I are always going back and forth about overrated versus underrated.
This is dangerous because there could be like one topic on here that just is like it's a full like 30-minute long discussion.
And I will get topical off the top here.
Okay.
And I will go the Met Gala. Overrated, underrated.
Perhaps the most overrated thing in the history of society.
Bang, correct. Very overrated, the Met Gala.
Look at all
ridiculous.
The richest people in the world wearing the goofiest outfits you've ever seen, doing nothing of importance. Isn't this awesome? Everyone sit in front of their TVs and lock in on it. I
can't wait to see what Shea Gilgeous and Russell Westbrook wore. Like, that's what it used to be. Luckily, they're in the playoffs, so they can't attend. But if they were in Cancun, they would actually travel to the Met Gala, and it would be insufferable. Yeah, I can't think of one thing
I care about less in the entire world.
I will say, fun fact about the Met Gala, though, it did begin as like a legitimate fundraising effort for like the local arts. It was like hey, let's support local like theater and local costume design and have people dress up and raise money for this. But it has become the most like self-involved, self-loving everything to do with celebrity. So I wanted to ask you about that. Maybe Damon was an underrated Met Gala guy. I don't know.
Hell no. I want to real quick. I want to say Cactus Light.
Shout out the artist formerly known as RA.
Shout out. 4 College World Series championships, no brainer to me. I want to just clarify. It is current power rankings. So like as much as I think we weigh in the history of a program to an extent,
it's like sprinkled in there.
Yeah, it's way lower on the totem pole in terms of how we were doing that ranking. Otherwise, baseball would be, like I said in the beginning of the show, second. Like it'd be softball, baseball, everybody else below. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that real quick. But yeah, definitely Met Gala, the most overrated thing of all time.
And then just because I've had an addiction to these recently, shrimp cocktails.
I think can I say properly rated? Is that am I allowed to do that?
I'll let you ride the fence on this. I'm
not gonna be like, oh man, I'm craving a shrimp cocktail, but a really good shrimp cocktail rips.
Yeah,
every time.
I think it's slightly. So that I'm letting you say properly because I'm only saying it's slightly underrated.
Okay.
I think like people think of like bad shrimp cocktails when they think of shrimp cocktails. They think of like not fresh stuff. But I feel like a fresh shrimp cocktail is incredible. And Luke's wondering why has this gone off the rails? Because I had a shrimp cocktail at Gila River and it changed my life. And I had more shrimp cocktail last night for dinner. And I woke up this morning thinking about shrimp cocktail. And I was doing the show rundown thinking about goddamn shrimp cocktails. So Luke, that is why we're talking about shrimp cocktails right now.
It certainly is. And I will say when I think about shrimp cocktails, I think about St. Elmo's shrimp cocktails in Indianapolis, where
your second home.
Yeah, my city, where we have a steak dinner every year, and Max is staring at me again. Hey Max, this is a big portion of the lore of PHNX Cardinals. Maybe you should tune in every once in a while, and you would hear that name be talked about a lot.
This one isn't Broadway even. At least this one's not like a theoretical one. Like, hey, don't talk about television shows and pop culture.
Yeah. Well, all that I was going to say is that shrimp cocktail like is very, very good, but also like leveled with horseradish, and it just will like it makes you like legitimately cry. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't know how to explain it other than like when you take a big hunk of it, it feels like your brain is being like shaken up like in a blender. Like you're literally like inside of your brain. I've never felt a feeling like it in my life. But yeah, I'll go properly rated to leaning in your neck of the woods of slightly underrated because it is good.
Yeah. All right. Back to sport ball. Back to Arizona Wildcats discussions, folks. We both know that the Arizona Block A logo is underrated. No need to even.
Dude, and this is funny regarding the conversation that I was having with many ASU fans on Twitter last week, Kevin. I don't know if you saw, like they did like a logo ranking of across all the sports.
I sent you that.
You did send it to me. That's true. And the ASU pitchfork was number 10 in across sports. And I've long held that is a horrific logo. Like to me, it is the epitome of, over modernization in sports. Like you had a elite logo in Sparky and that was cool and had like, history behind it and whatnot. and you just were like, cool, what if we made a trident and it was super modern looking? Would everyone love that? And that's our new thing. And then somehow people like that. And not only that, people go to war for it, Kevin. Like, I had no minimum 5 people coming after my looks, my appearance, because I said the pitchfork logo was overrated.
You want to talk about the trident? Let's talk about you, the way you look.
Nice mustache, buddy.
Your face is the logo to your life, and your logo is really ugly.
Yeah, and I was just like, man, you guys are really, really angry about this. And then they're like, your block A sucks. And it's like, I disagree. But also, am I spewing mad? Like I'm staring at my ceiling fan at night. I can't even sleep because some random guy on Twitter said that the block A was a terrible logo. It's like, dude, move on. Why do you care so much?
And I could have thrown the retro Arizona logo at you for this overrated,
elite.
Underrated, but that is so.
Even ASU fans will say it's elite.
Yeah, and that is so it's an obvious answer of underrated, if anything. That I wasn't even going to throw it at you. I threw the block A at you because I know some people are like, logo or letter logos are kind of lazy, whatever. It's kind of hit or miss for some people, I feel like. But I think the block A has actually become underrated because the retro logo is so good that it makes you kind of look at the current block A like,
Here's where I think the block A is underrated. Is like, people are like, oh, nice, it's an A with a A outline behind it. Name another logo in all of sports that looks anything like it. Go. You can't. And yet it's a national brand. Like, teams are not making that is not a logo that has like a cousin of sorts. You know what I mean? Like, it's very unique, and it's, as I said, like, you see it and you immediately think to yourself, Arizona, unless you're a big High School Musical fan, and then you think to yourself, University of Albuquerque. That's where Troy Bolton went. Or was gonna go.
Didn't know Damon was so locked in on the High School Musical lore. I'm not locked in on the lore, but the music, like the soundtrack, still slap to this day. And this could be the start of something new. Anyway,
you want to talk about a little bit of lore there? My boy's back in on it too.
Oh no, I'm in on the soundtracks. Like, the soundtracks, I know a lot of the words to a lot of the songs, but the actual what ending, like how each movie ended,
it was
and
a
what happened
classic
to each
tale
character.
of a high-level elite basketball prospect who's a 5'9" white guy, and
but also is pretty much going to end up in Cats, the on ice Broadway musical.
Yes, he's one of the greatest musicians and choreographic dancers we've ever seen. What is his true passion in life? Is it to go play for the University of Albuquerque? One of the great programs in this country. It's funny because when you watch that, like, when I was a kid, I remember thinking to myself, like, they've totally based this off of Tucson and U of A. They did, because it's in New Mexico.
No,
it's in
right.
Albuquerque, and it's
You're
the
so
University of Albuquerque, and it's our
the
logo.
U of A.
And Albuquerque and Tucson are extremely comparable cities in terms of population size, whatever. Like, it's very closely related to us.
I wish we were truly an outlaw country and we could curse, because that was a holy sugar, honey, and iced tea moment. Because I did not even.
That's what I'm here for.
That is.
That's what I'm here for.
If you had told me, Kevin, you're going to wake up today and go to work and learn something groundbreaking about your understanding of the pop culture hit High School Musical, I would be mind blown. And then also, because we were talking about this with our sweet friend Noah pre-show, Aaron Gordon, overrated, underrated?
Underrated as hell.
Speak on it.
Every postseason, all the guy does is show up in big moments, game after game. And we were talking about it a little bit, and like, you were kind of saying, you think he's a little bit of an uninspiring guy in terms of just like, why are you gonna get pumped up about
I think he's
Aaron
cool.
Gordon?
I just think he's ordinary from like a personality standpoint. The things he does on the court, extraordinary, but the person he is, I think, is somewhat ordinary.
He went from a guy who was the 3rd overall or 4th overall pick, I forget, and he was somewhat of a deemed a bust, and I mean, he was a good player, but he wasn't the guy that you picked him to be. And then he gets traded from the Magic, for, I think it was like Gary Harris Jr. to the Nuggets, and he just found himself a perfect fit. Like, he can't be a better fit for anyone than what he is next to Jokic. I'm sure Jokic feels the same way. Like, that's a perfect front court pairing. You have just a huge guy with size who can pass the ball. And then you have this rim runner, small ball 4 who can catch oops constantly and just be that vertical threat that Jokic is not, right? And also defend multiple positions like Aaron Gordon does. There's a reason Nuggets fans call him Mr. Nugget. It's because he is underrated. It's because he's a winner. Aaron Gordon, one of the most underrated players, I'd argue, in NBA right now. And that being said, also has more playoff moments than one James Harden. Makes you think.
Didn't have to think for very long on that one. But I will bring you this. Maybe he's underrated because he's a Nugget. Maybe he's underrated because he's Mr. Nugget. I feel like some of the most underrated basketball players of all time have played
Our Nuggets
for the Nuggets,
Yeah.
and they're underrated because of their time on the Nuggets. Like,
except Melo.
quick trivia, yes, but he broke out. He made it out.
Most
He made it out
overrated
the.
player I've ever
He made it
seen.
out the trenches and made it to big Times Square media in New York. So
And then he
never
was
gonna be
averaging
underrated.
26 on a team that won 12 games, and everybody was like, Melo.
Hey man, I do love me some Carmelo Anthony. But anyway, I wanted to bring this to you because who is the leading scorer from the 1980s in the NBA?
NBA history in the 80s?
Yeah.
Larry Bird?
Alex English of the Nuggets.
Wow.
Right? So it's like the Nuggets perennially have these dudes who, and maybe I was wrong, maybe it was the 70s. I might, someone fact check me on that. But Alex English
I think it might be the 70s.
led a decade in scoring at one point in the NBA, and no one really, I feel like, talks about him ever because he played in Denver. But anyway, Aaron Gordon, I agree.
No,
I
it was
think,
the 80s.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think Aaron Gordon is underrated, mostly because I do know that he's quite cool. His tattoos tell a really cool story too, and I think that his play on the court is infectious. Like, how can you not love a guy that just runs and has some of the craziest dunks you've ever seen, and has one of 2 buzzer-beating dunks to win a playoff game? Gotta love that. And our last topic today, Damon.
Real quick, Alex English in those 10 seasons averaged 25 points per game.
Nasty.
Pretty good.
Nasty work. Wonderful work from, congratulations, Alex English. Congratulations. You get a gavel. Anyway.
Underrated.
Last yeah, Alex English, underrated. Last topic today, Damon. AI in sports. Overrated or underrated?
Kevin is doing everything he can to make sure that when the Terminator Doomsday Apocalypse happens, that the AI controlled robots come after your boy here.
Don't speak too soon, because I think I'm going in the negative on this one. But go ahead, because I'm going somewhere with this. I have something to throw
AI
at you.
in general is one of the most overrated things of all time. Society would be a better place without it. That's my take on the matter.
Well, Damon, I'm sure you're familiar that NBC is coming back as a main basketball producer and leader in their coverage that was iconic in the 90s of the Bulls, filming the player intros. You know the videos that I'm talking about, and they've lasted decades, right? And now NBC's coming back, and they're rolling out the old intro theme, and they're rolling out the player intros again. One thing that they could not replicate, though, unfortunately, Damon, was the exact announcer that did the intros. Jim Fagan was the voice of the NBA's NBC promos during the 90s, right? He passed away in 2019, very unfortunately, right? NBC, using AI, will be replicating his voice as they return next season for the NBC promos.
And there it is, Kevin, the first step in the death of what we do.
And NBC's done this. They did this last year, I believe, or 2 years ago for the Olympics. They did this for the Olympics. I believe they had someone that couldn't. I think it was actually Al Michaels. Like, he couldn't be in 2 places at once, so like he couldn't film both promos. So like he did half of the promo, and they used AI to like do the other half for him.
You mean Costas maybe? If it was for the Olympics?
Yeah, I think so.
Or Tirico?
It was Tirico, and they also used Al Michaels for a different event.
Gotcha.
But that's where I'm getting those 2 names from.
My thing would be, Kevin, and I'll let you continue here in a second, but how can you make the next Jim Fagan? How can you make the next Al Michaels, the next Mike Tirico, the next Bob Costas, if you don't allow journalists and media members to grow into those spaces and grow into those roles, we lose out on, and not to like get weird about it, but like it's somewhat of an art form, to be honest, when
It
you're a
is.
really good broadcaster. And like when you lose out on that aspect of things because you're just recreating, what they could have sounded like in this moment if they read off of this script that I put in. Like that's horrific to me. I hate that so much.
I agree, and I want to be careful as I say this because I don't want
Because you don't want the robots to come
no,
after
because I
you.
don't want to like sound like I'm criticizing someone else's choice, right? But it did say that like NBC, in agreement with Fagan's family, would be doing this, and I'm thinking like, I'm surprised that they allowed NBC to do this, right? Because why would you like want the legacy to not be him, to not be what he is creating, right? Because you're right, it's an art. I think the calling of a sports event is an art. Letting certain silence, speak for itself, knowing when to find your pockets and what to say and when to say it, and credit to someone that I really admire in the orator space, John Anik, like knowing how to make a moment feel like a moment, knowing what to say in the moment without making it about you, but the call kind of speaks on its own. It's
Totally.
hard to recreate that because that's all just like an in the moment decision as to what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. So yeah, AI in sports I think is great for like VAR and stuff like that because you can get stuff correct, and even that goes too far. You and I were talking about this watching a soccer game the other week about how if a guy's pinky is past this guy's pinky, then he's offsides, even though they're pretty much lockstep.
And they
and
show
the
you on
same
like,
thing.
and I've always hated this. They show you on an animated screen that they expect you to believe is the exact positioning of every body part, even though they put it into like they make like a 2D action figure on this. It's like, how am I supposed to believe that is in any way, shape, or form, verifiable?
Yeah, but yeah,
you could totally make it up, and no one could disagree with you because it'd be like, well, no, that's what happened, and you're like, did it? I don't know.
I'm with you, and I think like to an extent, right? AI is good for VAR and stuff like that, but you can take it way too far, like what you're saying with the micromillimeter calls on an offside, or totally recreating someone who is passed on's voice to voice promos for an upcoming season of basketball.
It's almost disrespectful to a former broadcaster, I feel like, to do that. And I'm sure that they like got the okay from his family. That's what I was saying. Whatnot.
Like they did it in conjunction with the family, but I was so surprised that like that was something that they would want. They got co-signed, right? Like
because it's that's not him. That's not his work. That's not his art. That's so it's like that's like that'd be like like Picasso's family being like, which I don't think Picasso had any family, but like Picasso's family being like,
brother, he was born.
Well, yeah, but maybe I got that wrong with Van Gogh. But
I don't know.
That's like a famous artist like that being like, we're gonna have a machine create what he would have painted and then put it up in the Met, and you're like, what? But he didn't. but he didn't at all. I don't know. I find that absolutely shocking. I did not see that. I hate that so much.
It was one of those headlines where you see it on Twitter and you have to go verify it because there's no way that that's not like, an NBA Centel kind of account thing, right? Like, and I sure enough, I went to The Athletic and it was like a real article that like you really needed to pay to access, and so I really went on my phone and really read it. And yeah, it very interesting. AI in sports, we agree, overrated. Get it out of here. But that's all I had for you, Damon. And I think that's all we had for y'all in the chat at home. Damon, do you want to get us out of here?
Yeah, I'd love to. That was a great episode. I thought, like I said, jam-packed, brother. We talked about it all. But yeah, that's going to do it for us today. Why don't you drop a like on this video? Help us out so much. My guy Kevin needs some good rest for, just to energize for the rest of the week. Final 3 shows this week. We will be back, of course, on a Wednesday edition of the AZ Wildcats show. I am Damon Fairall. You can follow me at Damon Dog. You can follow my guy Kevin Thomas at Kevo Posts. And you can follow our account at VHNX_Wildcats. It is just kind of nasty that the Twitter account and the pod are different. It just screws me up all the time. It screws me up all the time, man.
No, yeah, I'm with you.
Only on this outro, though. Not in like any other really aspect, but
as you're like rolling, rolling through names. Kevo Post, KVO, POSTS, Damon Dog, PHNX. Oh,
AZ Wildcats. And then, yeah, I know it feels I think that's where I'm at with it. Like everything's flowing, everything's going so well. And then all of a sudden, just bang.
It's the underscore, I think.
Yeah.
It literally trips you up. You're like walking on the letters and then, oh, damn, right into the underscore. Got to jump up into the Wildcats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Buzzer beater, buzzer beater, buzzer beater. AZ Cats G, thank you for your $2 super chat.
That's our guy doing what he does, hitting Aaron Gordon style buzzer beaters. AZ Cats G. Everybody, drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. Help us get on the road to 50K. It's an early start, but we are going to get there eventually with the help of all of you in this chat. We will see you next time on a Wednesday edition at noon of the AZ Wildcats podcast. Until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.